Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. In this video, I'm not going to talk about the exhibition series, but instead, I'm finally able to talk about the official season for the Gran Turismo World Series, where everybody has the chance to become the world champion this year. Unlike the previous years, where the official season always began with the Nations Cup, this year it's going to be the Manufacturers Cup, where the first round takes place at the Nürburgring entrance layout, which we have already done on the previous exhibition series actually. But nevertheless, Polyphony Digital changed the race settings for this round just a tiny bit. But nevertheless, I would like to talk about the settings with you briefly so that you guys can be prepared for these races, or like for the first round at least, as much as possible. So you can already see that the fuel consumption rate has been set to ×1, as well as the tire multiplier has been set to ×3 for both the qualifying and the race. All of you have to lap the Nordschleife 5 times, and in terms of the tire compound which is available, only the hard tire compound can be used next to the intermediate and the wet tire compound. And you can also see at the bottom of the screen that all of us have to do a mandatory pit stop. So that's going to be a bit interesting in terms of whether you want to change your tires or not. Because of the fuel consumption rate, you don't have to refuel your car, luckily. But because of the weather setting being set to random as well, which we are about to see from few examples from the time trial session afterwards, the race itself is going to be really interesting and unpredictable. So yeah, let's see. Here we are in the time trial session, where if you pay attention to the retry button closely, you're able to see that the wind direction, the wind speed, as well as the weather setting itself is the same. But once you leave the track by going back to the session itself and then rejoin the track once again, you're able to see that all of these parameters have been changed. And if you go back to the session once again and then rejoin the track afterwards, you might have these kind of conditions here, which are absolutely dreadful if you want to set a really good time trial lap in the end. Here I just wanted to include a clip from the previous exhibition race we've done at the circuit, where the weather setting was also set to random, and this was also done from the qualifying session, like towards the end of the qualifying session. But you can already see here, like if you're not paying attention to the weather radar really closely, that also counts for the race by the way, then you might face a scenario where you might end up losing all the time due to spinning, or like due to not having the grip because you're on the wrong tire compound. And if that's the case, your race is pretty much over. So you should always try to pay attention to the weather radar for the race and even for the qualifying session. But nevertheless, because I believe every single slot is going to be random in terms of the weather radar, you should always try to pay attention to the weather radar closely and obviously as much as you can. But this here, this is pretty much my time trial lap I've done today really briefly, so that I can also try to make this video and yeah, share it with you guys, so that you can also try to be as much prepared as possible. But you can see here for sector 1, I think it's kind of logical how you should try to take it. Maybe, or maybe, well, let's say, okay, I will take it back. Like, you should try to stay closely to these kind of corners as much as you can, so that you can also try to rotate your car as much as possible. But obviously for the Nürburgring entrance layout, or even for the Nürburgring 24-hour layout, you're not really trying to aim or like to perfectly match the Grand Prix layout, but like what you want to try and do is like trying to nail the Nordschleife section, which we are about to enter here. So this corner on the left hand side is kind of tricky to nail in my opinion, like with the Citroen at least, because once you apply the throttle a little bit earlier, like early there, yeah, it will like to spin a little bit there. But nevertheless, with the new BOP, it's also a bit easier to take the right hander flat out, even on hard tires. But going into this corner here, you should also try to stay as closely as possible to the curbs on the inside. You can also abuse the curb here, but try not to abuse it too much, because that will unsettle your car for the following left-hander. Here, you can also try to use the grass on the left-hand side a little bit even, but try not to be on the throttle a little bit too early there, because if you're also trying to abuse the grass on the left-hand side too much, then you might also end up unsettling your car, which, yeah, you will just end up losing and spending, like losing a lot of time, and there's also a chance where you might spin your car in the end, which is not ideal, obviously, right? Here for the fast left-hander, I had to lift it, because if I hadn't lifted there, then the car wouldn't have turned, pretty much. But for the right-hand, like for the previous right-hander, it's also really important to stay as closely as you can there. But then you should also try to use the throttle as early as you can there. But if you are using the throttle a bit too early there, then you would have used the curb on the left-hand side a bit too much, and that would have unsettled the car as well. But here, it's also quite important not to use the curb on the right-hand side even if I had done it on my lap here. Because if you use the curb on the right-hand side, it's also going to unsettle your car a little bit for the exit there, which is not ideal. But here you can use the curbs on the inside, not for this one though, because if you use that curb on that left-hand side, like on the previous left-hand side I mean, then it's also going to unsettle your car for the exit. Now for the following, what is it, like for this right-hander, it's also important to brake a little bit earlier there, so that you can try to carry as much speed as possible through these corners here. As for the exit of that corner, it's important to use the throttle as early as you can. Obviously, if you use a different car, like a FR car for example, it might be a little bit differently here, because in my case, I decided to go with Citroen for the season. I won't be participating due to personal reasons, but yeah, I just wanted to try out the Citroen, how it's like for the manufacturer's car, because I haven't seen almost anybody choosing it in the end, which is a bit of a shame. But nevertheless, for this right-hander, it's also important to stay as close as you can there, because as we have like a little back straight here, you can also end up losing a lot of time till the end of the straight. So obviously, if you can try to nail the previous corner, then you're going to gain not really a lot of time, but you can gain some time for the back straight here. Then for the following, or like for the upcoming left hand, it's quite important not to use the curb on the left hand side, which I've done unfortunately, because if you use it a bit too much, it's going to yeet your car, if I can say it this way. Then we are also about to approach the carousel. There it's also important not to be impatient with the throttle, because once you're impatient with the throttle, then you're going to position your car in a bad way for the exit, which is not ideal obviously. But now we are about to enter, or like approach, the final part of the sector here. You should also try not to use the curbs on the left and the right hander, like on the previous left and the right hander. Here you can use it. Now try not to use the curb here with the Citroen at least, because here unfortunately I managed to unsettle my car for the fast right hander, or like for the fast speed section here, unfortunately. So unfortunately I lost a little bit of time through that section of the track, which is not ideal, but nevertheless I still tried to carry through here. This part wasn't optimal either, because I used the grass on the left hand side, which led me not having enough grip for the following right hander. But I think from this part onwards it was fine in terms of the grip, but unfortunately I lost a little bit of time through that section here. Here it's also, like for me personally at least, useful if you brake a little bit earlier before the jump, so that you can also try to position your car in a better way due to the weight transfer. Now for the upcoming right hander, it's also quite important not to miss the apex through here, so that you can also try to hit the apex for the following left hander. The mini carousel, if I can say that, is also quite important not to be impatient with the throttle, because once you do that, you're going to have such a bad exit for the following corner, and there's also a chance where you might end up on the grass and lose all the time you have maybe gained up to this point, right? But here on the Döttinger Höhe we can kind of calm ourselves down a little bit. In terms of the top speed of the Citroen, I think it's average. Like, it has good acceleration in my opinion, but it's just the top speed of the Citroen not really being the best compared to the Supra, for example, or the 4GT. But nevertheless, we are reaching around 273, which is not really that bad in my opinion. But now here, hitting the, nailing the braking point is also quite important, so that you can use the curb on the right hand side for a really good exit. And this is a short time trial lap which I wanted to show you here. And after that, I would like to show you how the race pace might look like in terms of the tire wear especially, because we would like to focus on the tire wear mainly. So in this part of the video, I'm doing a little race simulation practice where I mainly would like to showcase the tire wear as well as the fuel consumption of the car for the race, so like with the race settings. And you can also see that the fuel consumption itself is not going to be a huge issue, especially as we only have to lap the Nordschleife 5 times, right? As for the tire wear, that's going to be a certainly interesting factor. But only if the race itself is going to be dry only. Because some other cars, they are not really able to save their tires quite well as some of the other cars, if I can say that. So some cars might be forced to go into the pits, but in this clip here, I'm sorry to interrupt here. I ended up doing a little mistake, unfortunately, but this is what I was saying earlier, like, you can gain and lose some time here, because if you look at the top of the screen, you can see that I was already like 4 seconds down, but on the following split afterwards, I was already down by 5.2 seconds. So I lost 1.2 seconds because of the lack of speed, if I can say that, for the upper section. But because of the tire wear being like this, the race itself is certainly going to be interesting. So I don't think there's a clear strategy already, due to the weather being random, if I can say that. But this is mainly the guide for the first run of the Manufacturers Cup. If I've missed anything, please let me know so that I can try to do it for the second round of the Manufacturers Cup and also afterwards. But nevertheless, I would like to wish you all the best. And also good luck, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys on the next video. So until then, cheers!